Hey everybody, it's Dr. Mary Gardner from Lap of Love, and today I've got my guest speaker that I've been super excited about, Dr. Julie Buzby. And I just like saying your last name.
Thanks.
So I don't know if you know this, but I met you. I'm sure you don't remember me at all, but it was like 7 or 8 years ago at one of the largest conferences in veterinary medicine called NABC back then. And you had your booth. And I think it was either 2012 or 13. And I was just, and I don't know if it was like your first booth or something, but it was back in the day, right? And I remember going up to your booth and I'm like, what do you got there? And you were there, but there's thousands of people at this conference. So that's why I say you won't remember me, because I was one of thousands coming up to your booth because of your awesome invention toe grips. And as a weak and wobbly pet lover myself, and though many of those that are watching are also that way, I just am in awe at what you created and am super excited to have you here. So you are the inventor of the toe grips.
Yes, so let me begin by clarifying that, because I love to give credit where credit is due. A brilliant client of mine actually came up with the idea, and he's like just Leonardo da Vinci incarnate, and he was not going to do anything with it. He has a zillion projects, irons in the fire. He's an artist, and I was so excited that my hair was standing up on end when he was showing me this concept. And he's like, Julie, if you think you can help dogs with it, go for it, because like this is never leaving my kitchen. So I developed the product from an idea, and I'm the biggest cheerleader, but I'm not really the inventor.
Okay. All right. Well, it's nice that you give credit. How long ago was that?
So you're right. I did meet you in 2013. That was our big debut. And that was 2012. That was like our R&D year.
Oh, so that's not very long at all for R&D. That's fantastic. Okay. So this awesome dude tells you his idea. Now, are you like me and love the big, weak, wobbly, spaghetti leg, crusties, lumpies?
You know it. So my practice right now, I mean, years ago, I owned my own practice and saw everything. But right now, for like the last decade, I've just been doing chiropractic and acupuncture. And so I see all those senior dogs that have, mobility management issues. And that's why I was so excited. I actually said to him, I'm like, I have been looking for this product my entire career. I just didn't know what it would look like, because I could affect pain, I could affect mobility, but I couldn't stop them from slipping. That was a biomechanical issue. So that, was super exciting.
So cool. Okay, so whereabouts do you live?
We live on the coast of South Carolina, between Savannah and Charleston. It's called Beaufort.
Yes. Okay. Listen, I lived in Myrtle Beach for 1.5 years in the early days of my life, going to University of South Carolina. So you now, I was just thinking about my dog, Sam. She has spinal lymphoma. So she's got very weak legs. So she's got beautiful hips, wonderful hips, but she's got that, neuropathy, right? Where she's knuckling and toe dragging and Dr. Julie knows, because I, send her private messages probably way too often. So we are not only a fan, but a consumer. So, all right. So tell me, and everybody here, because I know these well, but I just love to understand also from the start. So this guy's got this idea. And so what do you do? Do you get like rubber bands and?
Yeah. So do you want to hear the crazy story? Because it gets crazy.
Perfect.
Okay.
Everybody wants to.
All right. So he actually came to our open house at the vet hospital, and he said, look what I did for Morgan, who was the senior dog that I had done some acupuncture on. And he pointed down to her toenails, and he had put these bands on really to keep her quiet at night on their floor. So she probably had some level of doggy dementia, and she was ticking around on the floors at night. But instantly I recognized, like, oh, crud, a dog's natural mechanism for traction is to engage their nails like soccer cleats. Works fine outside on turf, but it doesn't work on hard floors. So I'm like thinking of all these patients that I can help. And the poor guy was this massive introvert. And I started texting him every day, and I just wanted to help him. I wanted this for my patients, and I wanted to help him any way I could, like make this available. So, I mean, I think after about like the second week of receiving my daily text with ideas and brainstorms, and I just wanted to support him. That's when he's like, Julie, please just take it and use it. If you think you can go with it, I'm thrilled. And so to this day, thankfully, we're close friends, and I love he and his wife, who's a vet tech, and they've been very supportive. So it has a happy ending. But of course, finances are a concern. Like, I remember saying to my husband, and you know this because you've done crazy, amazing projects and invented things and brought all kinds of businesses to life. But I was a naive veterinarian. What did I know? I just knew that this could help my patients. And so I said to my husband, I think we can do this for $2,000. So that was, a multiple of many zeros after that of getting this thing off the ground with lawyers and R&D and, the whole technology piece. And so one of my clients, one of the big pieces I wanted was the patent. And one of my clients who, God bless her, she called me Julie girl, here we are in the South. And she was so sweet. And this is the most fun story. She wanted to give me money to help me with this. And this was a huge risk. If this sunk, I wanted to only sink myself. I didn't want to take anybody with me. I just really felt like if this fails, I don't want to have to feel those feelings of I let you down and, I took your money in the process. So I consistently refused any sort of support. And I'm like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. And she just kept saying, I'd rather give you the money than the government. And I saw her every week. She had 2 senior dogs. We were doing acupuncture. So one Sunday I came home from church, and on my doorknob was a Verizon bag, like the kind of thing you get when you just buy your brand new phone. It was just left on the doorknob because I wasn't home. And in it was $10,000 in cash in $20 bills.
Stop it.
That she just left because I wasn't there. So I knew what it was.
South Carolina for you. That ain't happening in South Florida.
Yes, our quiet little neighborhood. So I immediately who could this be from? So I immediately called her. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, you wouldn't take it and you're taking it. And I'm so proud of you. And she was so sweet. So that was actually that conference that we were at in 2013. We came there in January, and it was a last minute decision, and it was expensive to get a booth and to travel.
People don't understand, just to rent the space, then the backdrop and the manning it, and like the hotels are so expensive. I mean, you probably went through half of that.
Well, so that money was for the patent specifically, but the patent wasn't due until the bill wasn't due till March. So I called her and I said, hey, I'd really love to go debut at this conference. Do you mind if I use the money and I'll make it back there and then I'll have it for March? And she's like, I trust you, whatever you want to do. So 7 volunteers came with me from the vet hospital that I work, and some friends and family. Everybody volunteered. My whole neighborhood was packaging up toe grips to get them out the door. We borrowed a TV. We borrowed a trailer. Like, it was such an amazing barn raising story.
Goosebumps. I love it.
And we only had this when we bought our booth in December, there was 6 booths left.
Yeah, I remember where we were.
Well, it was a phenomenal spot, actually, because we ended up getting a double booth. They called me 3 days before we were supposed to go, and they said, hey, there's been a mix-up, and we actually double sold the spot you're supposed to be in. So is it okay if we give you a double booth for the same price? And I'm like, is this a trick question? So we had this amazing standalone spot, and we get down there, and I very quickly realized that I'm in big trouble because all that people are doing is giving away chapstick and Post-it notes. And I need to sell $10,000 worth of toe grips to make back my patent money. So I'm like, oh my heavens, I completely didn't know what I was doing. So it's really an amazing story. We have all these little amazing, just God pieces of the story. But the last day we were short by $10, and one of the volunteers who was there with me bought, I would have given him a lifetime of toe grips, but just because he knew that was the goal, the last, before the bell rang, the closing bell, he bought a package of toe grips to put us 3 cents over that $10,000 mark, and we did it, and it was a miracle.
Oh my God, that is so cool. This is such a good story. Now, and I'm not lying. I remember your booth and everything, which is crazy. Now, because I spoke at that conference, and I'm always going down to look at what new products are out there. I'm a huge harness lover. I've got, my favorite harness out there and things like this. When I saw this, I'm like, what? and there's been booties and everything else, which, every, dog may utilize something differently. But I was like, how ingenious. So now has the original changed much to this one?
So the concept of putting something on a dog's nails that had a specific, the word is durometer, a specific durometer to give them grip, that was the idea. And so we took it and we had to figure out sizing and, just the actual specifics for manufacturing it. And that's a whole nother crazy story. I ended up working with rescues all over the country to try to figure out how we size for specific dogs, and just working with volunteers. And so it was really a year, because above all, do no harm is our mantra, right? And I probably wouldn't even be selling toe grips to this day because I'm such a perfectionist. But I had this one client that would come like every 3 weeks for acupuncture. And he was an entrepreneur, and he's like, Julie, you just got to sell these things, Julie. Come on, you got to get out there. You got to get to market. So thanks to Dave, after a year of R&D, we did launch there at VMX, and certainly a lot of learning curve. And there's been some modifications, but for the most part, the concept of just enabling a dog's natural gripping mechanism, that fundamental concept hasn't changed.
Okay, so I want you to, I think you have a little foot model there to explain it. Now I got this thing that says your name across my little agenda, and I'm trying to get rid of it. So make sure it's up higher than that.
All right, here it is.
All right, that's creepy, Julie, but tell us.
All right, so it's a ceramic paw. Let me get this.
Go this way. Go there. Yes.
You. And the idea is that when a dog wants traction, they flex their paw, engage the toes, and the nails act like soccer cleats. So even normally healthy short nails, they can still reach down to the ground. And if you've ever seen a petrified dog standing in a waiting room of a vet office on a slick floor, a lot of times they look like they're like up on their tippy toes because they're trying to engage that gripping mechanism that's not working for them. And so all we did was take the nail and just give it just turns out it doesn't take much. We just give it a little bit of grippiness now. So when they go through that motion, now, the grip zone, we made up that word.
TM. Okay, so wait a minute. Let me get this straight for biomechanics or whatever. So even if your dog's foot is on the ground and the toes aren't hitting it, just standing there, but when they're trying to grip, they actually will kind of grip and then they will hit it.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and the answer is maybe. So, I'm a fan of short nails in dogs. I really am. I have like this whole nail trimming course that I did. Like, I really love it. However, 99% of American dogs have toenails that are fine for toe grips, and even if they're not in contact, when they need it, it's still enough to grip. But there are dogs that their nails are just too short, especially dogs on the hind end where they have been wearing them down because of a neuro condition.
Talk about that.
Yeah, and so in that case, it's not the right product for traction. It can actually do other interesting things, but it's not going to work for traction.
Okay, let's not go there yet because I want to go there. But let's first talk about, so on your website, which let me see if I have if I've got the little website here. Maybe I do. Let's see. Toegrips.com. Okay, so on your website though, it talks about how to measure the dog's toenail, right? And figure out what size that you need, because they look very similar sizes, but they're not.
Yeah, so people say all the time, why don't you just send me some choices and I'll size? And the answer is because you're always going to pick the one that's too big because it's the easiest to put on.
Yes. These could be kind of almost like compression socks to try to put them on, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know you've got instructions. So by the way, so you sent me my 2 different sizes because I wanted to be able to just show them and, use them on Sam. But, and you've got in the packet that it comes, it talks about how to put them on. And so you just basically soak them in some rubbing alcohol for just like a minute or 2, right? And then you push them on. It's really not that hard.
Yeah, so I'm going to demonstrate it, okay?
Perfect.
So it's not even really a soak. It's just that they're a little easier to apply wet because it kind of breaks the coefficient of friction. So you can apply them dry, but it's easier to apply them wet. And then it's easier to just have them all wet at once and take them out one at a time. And we use rubbing alcohol because it's clean and it easily evaporates and it doesn't damage the material. So it's just the best. I mean, you can technically use water or witch hazel, or the inventor of toe grips, the first time he put on the prototype for one of my patients, he spat in it and put it on. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to put that in the instructions. So we went with rubbing alcohol.
Good to know, because that will be me.
Okay, good. So essentially, the key is really to stabilize each toe as you apply, because if you don't and you're cranking on these old arthritic toes, it hurts, right? So I just put a thumb behind, underneath the pad and on top, and kind of just keep the toe stabilized. And then I just take the wet toe grip. Wow, this is really, I am not good at this.
It's hard to do this, people. They don't understand how hard it is. The camera. Yes, you're good.
All right. And I just push it on as far as it'll go. That's step one.
Okay.
And then step two is just taking my fingernails or fingertip and kind of working it up into place.
Okay.
So that on the bottom, it creates our grip zone TM. And on the top, it's just back far enough that it's not going to just fall right off. So the vast majority of dogs just wear these. You mentioned compression socks. They're snug because they're just creating a friction seal, and that's how they stay on it. And I like that. I mean, it's simple. Now, there are times that we recommend gluing, and we can talk about that when we...
Somebody asked about glue, so why don't we just talk about glue, because somebody asked.
Yeah, so gluing is not our standard application. For the average senior dog plodding through life, they should stay on just by the friction seal. Reasons they come off. Number one, they're sized incorrectly. Too big or too small, they'll fall off. Number two, the dog's too active. So they're not designed for 3-year-old dogs who slip running around playing ball in the house. They're for senior dogs who are walkers and not runners. And number three, if a dog has what we call conscious proprioceptive deficits, and that means that they tend to drag or scuff their paws when they're walking, that motion, toe grips are super valuable for those dogs, and we'll talk about it, but that motion tends to pop them off. And that's also an instance where we would glue. And so there's on our website, toegrips.com, on the screen, you can do /how to glue. So it's how-to-glue, and all the instructions are there.
Very cool. Okay, so somebody just asked, Amy asked, what about dogs that try to eat them?
So that's our number one question. Like when we go to a trade show, everybody comes up and says, well, my dogs just chew these right off. And you just have to believe me, after however many years this is, 7, I can say with confidence, it's really uncommon. So of course it does sometimes happen, but like it is, of all the customer service tickets that we get in a day or a week, like it's pretty rare. I mean, we might get a couple. The reason is, if you think about it, they're not covering the paw pads or soft tissue or skin. They're on those distal nail tips, which are poorly innervated. I mean, first of all, the quick doesn't even go all the way to the tip. And secondly, it's encased in this hard, keratin tissue of the nail. So they really just don't even seem to notice them. If your dog does tend to bother with them, then we don't take the risk of them potentially chewing them off and having a problem. We have a money back guarantee. But also in these 7+ years, we've never had an issue with the dog chewing them off, ingesting them, and having some sort of a GI problem. So I'm thankful for that too.
Very, very cool. Now, so I want to get to the neuropathy and the alternate uses that and I remember somebody, and by the way, I know we have a huge following. Both you and I are members of the laryngeal paralysis group. I'm there, because I had a gulp dog. So I'm there for the support. And a lot of them will have this, weak in the back, and then they'll have that proprioception deficit, like you were saying. But one person I heard was that their dog, when they laid on the ground, their legs, went out back, and they had the toe grips on, and just them trying to get up off that lane for, frog position, it helped them when their foot was upside down to help get up. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. Susie Gray, by the way, adopted a senior dog. So thank you, Susie Gray, for adopting oldies. But now, what about the scuffing? Because this is Sam's issue, and that's helpful for that, right?
Yes. So degenerative myelopathy, gulp, these kind of conditions that, there's a bunch that can cause it. If it's early enough, toe grips can be really cool, not only for traction, but also because they're sparing to the nail. So
Yeah.
they will have to be glued on. But then instead of the dog wearing the tips of their nails down to little bloody stumps, they're actually wearing away the toe grips. And I see that in my practice, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is they provide proprioceptive stimulus. So they actually, and I don't know how it is, but they draw the brain's attention to the paws in such a subtle way, because they're not invasive. They're not covering over the whole paw like boots and socks. And I love boots and socks for certain uses, but not for dogs that are frail and already struggling with breakover. So I remember years ago reading the report of the Pentagon after 9/11, and the senior vet there who took care of the dog said those dogs who are going on the pile, they're not wearing boots or socks unless they have an injury, but to just to do the job, they're not, because they need every ounce of their proprioceptive ability. And it's true, when we put boots and socks over these paws and these dogs that are struggling already, we obliterate a lot of that proprioception, because so much of it is coming from receptors in the toes and the nails. That's a huge concentration there. And so toe grips don't affect that at all. But whether it be weight or a little bit of pressure, I don't know, it does kind of draw the brain's attention and seems to help them.
That I never thought of that, because I'll talk to people about putting like hair ties on the bottom, like, and it's good because it just is some attention there, and it's especially for the neuropathy dogs, right? So, which is what I've got right now. And so, I'm throwing myself under the bus. So Sam, right? It's a girl, and so she's doing that, and I didn't know what it was. Not like I said, it's spinal lymphoma, but her two middle toes that were dragging so much were bloody stubs, and now they're just little stumps, right? So they're not long enough yet to get them back on. But once they're long enough, I'm going to get them back on, and I'm going to put it on the other, two, the outer two that are still good, because those inner ones, it's really tough. Now I've got a couple questions. First off, Rich says, "Take my money," in all caps. I love Rich. He's always here. Now, what about Marcella says, so you remove them when you have to trim their nails and put on a new set, ?
Yes. So if they're applied in the traditional way, you can just remove them, you can trim the nails, and you can reapply them. And when you do, you're inherently going to kind of put them on in a different place for the grip zone. So it's like rotating car tires, and they last longer that way, and it's fine. However, if you are gluing them, it becomes a one-use product, because when you take them off from being glued, you sort of just kind of peel them off the nails, and so you can't reuse them. So unfortunately, that you can't reuse the product at that point. But typically those dogs are so helped by the toe grips that people are like, that's fine. I'll, once a month or however long they're going to be changing them. And if I can mention how long they last, can I talk about that quickly?
Yes.
So the average dog, they last, I'm going to give the range of 1 to 3 months. For a dog who's really sound gated and just needs them for traction, like I have a golden, the dog slips on their hardwood stairs, but the dog doesn't really have no neuropathy, really no lameness, just slips on the stairs. That dog goes 4 to 6 months in a set of toe grips, which blows my mind. Right. But she uses herself very correctly. For a dog that has specifically a neuropathy or any sort of an issue where they're using them so hard like a crutch, then you see more wear, and you only might get a month out of them. But again, those are the dogs that they seem to be helping the most. And I would say average of all dogs using them, I would say is like 2.5 months.
Oh, that's actually better than I thought. Now, Lynn asks, in Arizona, she's got a lot of stones and concrete in her yard, right? So do they hold up pretty good there in, walking outside? Probably it's just concrete might be worse than the stones, but.
Right. I mean, if it's stones where the dog sort of like the nails are going in between the stones, that might tend to yank the toe grips off. I'm not sure. But what I would say is try them. We want people to try them, and we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. Like, our customer service team is the best in the country. I swear by it, and I stand behind it, and we will take care of you. We are just here to help as many dogs as possible. So if you think like, well, my dog might be a good candidate, try them. We have free shipping, and worst case scenario, you just have to take advantage of the refund.
There you go, Lynn. Try them out. I love it. Okay, so Pat's got an old Doxy that's a wobbly walker. Needs to be great. And Tina Marie's got a min pin that's afraid to walk on the hardwood floor and tile floors. Will these help?
Yes. So that's another off-label use. So we have a ton of greyhounds that seems to be a big issue for them that use them. And we've actually, this is kind of cool. And I know this because they were owned by veterinarians. So I had closer feedback and communication with them. I think probably several dozen dogs have used it just for the fear factor. But I know of at least 2 dogs who use toe grips. This is so cool. And they were able to rehab through their fear, slowly take off the number of toe grips, and like go on to not be toe grips users. And that's really exciting to me.
For sure. Julie, this is so cool. Listen, I knew about you, and we were, friends, because now we've seen each other in conferences and we've stalked each other, enough. But I love this backstory. It's so interesting. Now, about how much do they cost?
They cost $34.99 unless you buy them on a subscription. So you can, on our site, you can say like, okay, just ship them to me every 2 months, and then they're $29 something.
Easy peasy. Tiffany says, beat me to the punch with the greyhounds. She's in. I love it. Okay, so anything else cool that you could think of that I did not mention in my interview skills?
Well, I mean, it really comes down to the stories. That's why I love doing this so much, is these, like, if you go to our website, toegrips.com, and click on shop now, and then click on toe grips. We have had so many websites over the years, and I didn't realize the value of saving these testimonials. So our latest website, we finally got our act together, and we're saving these testimonials, and we have like 500. But their stories are so, like, nobody just writes, oh, this is a good product. It's not like Amazon, like 5 stars, this works. They tell their dog's whole story, and it's so meaningful, to see that when you affect a dog's life, and I think this is why many of us became veterinarians, it's not just the joy of working with that dog, but you also have direct impact on the quality of life for their human. So one of my favorite stories is a dog who lived in Israel. And this was years ago when Israel was getting a lot of rockets, the terrorists were shooting rockets over, and the dog couldn't run into the safe room in the house. And so they only had seconds to get into the safe room. And so he wrote me a story, and he said, this was very early on. So I actually was doing my own customer service emails at the time. So I had a lot of communication with him. And he said, now I can't remember the dog's name, a little white Spitz, but she's like, now my dog, like, when we're all running, the dog used to scuffle and couldn't get up and make it in time. And I think he probably did what he could to help the dog get there and risk his own life anywhere. They had like 4 seconds when the alarms went off. But with toe grips, the dog could safely run to the safe room in the house herself. So that, I mean, talk about having impact. That story has always stuck with me.
Oh my gosh. And for anybody who's watching this and thinking about getting it, like, we would love to hear those stories. So even myself, I want to hear it, because, it's nice to see that we're helpful. And look, there's a lot of people who don't know about them, and it's nice to see some people saying that they're going to try it. And you've got so many different sizes. Like, there's how many sizes you got? 7. Okay. I knew you'd know that. How many people now do you've got working in like support?
This is such a great story because, it just started with my family in our kitchen. So we have, I don't know, around 16 employees now.
What?
And it's all of them. I'm so thankful for them. All of them truly love our customers and the dogs that use toe grips like I do. Like, there's nobody who's just here collecting a paycheck. Like, these people care so much. And all of them also are people that, by being employed through our little small business, are able to either, be stay-at-home moms or single moms. There's a story behind everybody, and they are a huge blessing to me, and I pray that we're a blessing to them. So thank you for your business, for your small business.
Yeah. Okay. Jane's got a quick question. Do they stretch out?
Yes. So theoretically, no. I mean, the material has a lot of elasticity. I will say, over the many years we've been doing this, we've had a few customer service tickets where people said, I was taking off, I was trimming, reapplying, and doing that over a certain pretty long amount of time. And then it seemed like towards the end, they were starting to stretch out. So I have read customer service things like that, a handful of times or less. But the vast majority of people, I've never heard that, and I've not experienced that in my own practice. They maintain their shape and their elasticity and stay attached to the nail.
I've seen that. Like it's pretty consistent. And again, there's sizing information on the website, like a ton of information on your website. And I want to also touch on an ebook that you made. So tell me about that.
I mean, I hate to be excited about it because it's a terrible topic, but this sounds
You're in good company.
It's a hard topic, but I feel like in my entire 23-year veterinary career, like this book is one of the things I'm most proud of because it started with the idea from some blogs written on the topic of saying goodbye to your dog. And reading the comments from people on those blogs, I realized that I did not understand the level of emotion, of course, in a euthanasia appointment, and this is your area of expertise. We try to really answer people's questions and help them address without fear, because I think when we don't understand things, it's easier to be more fearful. So to just be very honest and gentle about the process and give the dog and the family the gift of this very gentle, peaceful send-off. But I didn't realize that many people have not had that experience, and they carry potentially years of guilt from that and have these questions, and like really it's very traumatic. And so I took some blogs and then some other ideas and answers around this concept and wrote this book. Basically, it's how to say goodbye to your dog, from first knowing the signs that it's time, then moving through the appointment itself and what, like nitty gritty, what to expect in the process of death, and then ending with my own personal story of a home euthanasia of our dog a couple years ago. And so this is something that I'm really proud to have been able to put together, because I hope, again, it affects many lives for the better. And it's not something I would feel comfortable charging for. So it's a free resource on our website.
That's so good. And we put it in the comments. The link was too big to put in my little purple bar there, but we put it in the comments. So the link is there to the ebook about how to say goodbye, free from Dr. Buzby. Listen, I've got another great question here. Jane says, my lab won't stay still. Well, you have a lab, Jane. So there you go. Do vets apply them?
Great question, Jane. So many of our customers, I mean, the vast majority of our business is selling directly to customers. But if for whatever reason, I mean, we've had people who were in wheelchairs or people who just didn't feel like their dogs would cooperate. For whatever reason, if you aren't able to put on the toe grips yourself, then yes, we have on our website in the footer, the Find a Retailer page. Sorry, we have on our website in the footer a Find a Retailer page, and you can use your zip code to find a vet near you who carries toe grips and applies them. And I would love for all of you to tell your vet to carry toe grips. We wholesale toe grips to vets.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to actually say. So even if your vet doesn't, because as amazing as I think it is, not all vets know about the toe grips, right? Just like not all vets know about lap of love. So if you find us, tell your vet. But you could buy them and talk to your vet and tell them about it, because imagine then the ripple effect. So the next, wobbly dog that they have, they'll know about them and know how to, apply them. But nurses and technicians at clinics know how to do some help the little that won't stay still guys. Now, another question, Miriam, and I think I can answer this one. So it's her dogs, the legs are sliding out, especially on the tile floors, especially in the morning, but walking outside isn't an issue. Do you keep the toe grips on the whole time or just when they're slipping? Keep them on the whole time. You just, right. It's not an easy, because they're not hard to put on. I want to make sure people realize this. They're not difficult to put on, unless, like Jane, you got a squirrely dog. But it's not something like socks where you can put them on and off really easy. Just leave them on.
Right, and that's the beauty of it, is they're designed for, we say, like semi-continuous long-term use. We did have one lady in Kansas City. Her dog was a therapy dog, and so she lived on carpets at home, but she went every day to school with the lady. And so this lady did put them on every morning and take them off every evening, because she, once you get past the learning curve, they are simple to do, and that worked for her. That dog's name is Callie, and actually on our YouTube channel, Toe Grips, if you type in Callie, C-A-L-I, you can see a really cool before and after of this dog on these slippery floors at the school, and then her sort of figuring out that she has traction. She made me this video set to music, and also that dog has shorter nails, and you can see her engaging the paws to use the toe grips.
I love it. I'm going to go check out all these videos. I love it. All right. Anything else I forgot?
I just want to thank you. You mentioned the book, and in the book I speak often and with great love and affection for Lap of Love, because that service that you provide, and for lack of a better term, have made mainstream. I mean, before, I think there were always veterinarians who recognized the value and the importance of that and went out of their way to do it. It's just hard with a full schedule to get out and be on the road as a small animal vet. But you have made a way for that to be accessible, I think, to so many people. And I'm sure hopefully you're throughout the entire world one day. But I want to thank you for that, because that's an invaluable last gift that we give.
Thank you. We have an amazing team of vets and care coordinators that answer the phones, and families. We have the best families, just like you do too, right? And so I just got a few more questions. Gil, she's worried about them chewing them off every day. I try them, like Dr. Julie says. You can get even.
It's so rare. So rare.
Do they go on the back and the front? Both, right? My groomer says to use them. And then Marnie, hold on, I gotta go back up. My friend Marnie, who I've known before I became a vet and worked with her at the Humane Society. I have a dog training company and deal with aging dogs. Do you have brochures that she can send and give my students and clients? So she should just email it, like the website, somebody on the website.
So Marnie, that's awesome. Thank you. help@toegrips.com. Just write and request brochures. We will send you brochures. We will send you a brochure holder. We will send you an I Love My Senior Dog sticker. Just tell us what you need.
I love it. I want one of those stickers. I love them. Awesome. Well, listen, I think I probably went overtime and took up more time than I promised I would only take out of your busy day. I am so in awe of you for a few reasons. One, as a veterinarian and coming up and being entrepreneurial with this, right? We have so many ideas and sometimes we're just like, I don't want to do it, right? And it's just a lot of work. And you know what? You went for it. You're helping my favorite breed, the weak and the wobblies, right? And even the young ones, like we said, with some issues, and just being so kind and lovely as a professional and person. So, and to our LARPAR group.
Woo, shout out
to our LARPAR group. And so he said, only for senior dogs. No, sorry, Lisa, it's any dog that has an issue, right? Because we could have a dachshund with a back issue, any dogs that's slipping and sliding or, having these issues. And it just so happens that a lot of our older dogs will have these neuropathies and arthritis and things like that. So
senior and special needs is what we say.
TM.